Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. I love these days. We're going to miss Tim Walz for calling on me first, but for a lot of reasons, you've been a tremendous ranking member, and it's been a pleasure, by the way, to work on this committee, which is a model of bipartisanship. And all of us here today are deeply concerned about the gravity of veteran suicide. We're all troubled by the idea that our servicemen and women might return home from battle, survive battle, only to take their own lives because they're tortured by something they experienced during their service. Many of us have someone in mind as we tackle this tough subject. I wanted to mention the Somers family who are here right now. I know you've met them. Their son Daniel served valiantly in Iraq, including multiple combat missions that caused severe post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury. And caught in the back load of veterans cases at the VA in Phoenix, he didn't get the care that he deserved, that he had earned, and tragically he committed suicide at 30 years old. And as his mother said, if he had not met so many obstacles, would my son be alive today? So Dr. Howard and Jean Somers are now tireless advocates for fixing and reforming the broken healthcare system at the Department of Veterans Affairs. I think they would rather be taking vacations and traveling places other than Washington, D.C., but they're always here on the Hill, and we're honored to work with them. But it's tragic that it took a parent's loss to draw this to our attention. San Diego has the third largest population of veterans in the country, about 235,000 who call our region home. And we now know that veterans experiencing homelessness are at particular risk with suicide. So veterans who haven't experienced homelessness have a suicide rate of 35.8 per 100,000, but suicide rates are 81 per 100,000 for vets who've been homeless in the last year, and that's more than twice as likely. So I want to put in my plug for making sure that we understand that if we prevent homelessness, we can help prevent many veterans' suicide. We have to preserve and expand resources to homeless vets, including HUD-VASH vouchers, which provide crucial supportive housing. And I'm relieved we were able to stop the VA from thinking about taking that money away from homelessness funding from the HUD-VASH program, which we did last year. I did also want to say we want to make it not harder to access care. We want to be actively working to reduce the stigma, to increase the outreach. So I had two questions. I think, Dr. Franklin, probably for you. And it's how the VA uses data to intervene early and what that data comes through. In particular, what information are you receiving from the DoD, the Department of Defense, about exiting service members in their transitioning screeners? So how would red flags be conveyed to you, and what are the obstacles for you getting that information?
It's a very good question, and thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about this important topic in terms of the intersection between DoD and VA. Primarily what we're getting in terms of data is heavily reliance on medical data. So the channels are crosswalked, and we're getting clinical records and medical data. Where I think there are areas for improvement are data points that might not be as medically focused. And so things that we talk about, if we were able to do better in this space, would be focused on more personnel data. So did they not deploy? Did they not get promoted when they intended to? You can see how that can be a very quick risk factor when they've perhaps fallen from glory within the unit. Did they have an Article 15 while they were on active duty? Did they go through a rough divorce? Were these types of personnel factors that are sometimes known to the system because they're in a record and sometimes known to the small unit leader, we could do a lot more, I think, in the care for them while they're veterans if we had that good, rich information.
I think it would be helpful going forward if you identified what you needed from the Department of Defense, and we could go check and see whether that information's coming out as part of the screening.
Yes, sir, very well.
The other thing I want to ask you about, there was a recent report by KPBS in San Diego said that only 115 veterans nationwide are enrolled in a suicide program, prevention program targeted to vets with other than honorable discharges. And of those 115, 25 went to San Diego VA. I would like to know what the outreach for this program looks like, or how would you like to see it change?
Yes, this is another very good question and top on our mind at the office as well, other than honorable. You know, when this first got passed out, we made great strides when this first got passed and we started rolling out with this work. We made great strides to put the word out. So we brought all of our VSOs in and we asked for their help to reach out to their millions of veteran constituent groups and fact sheets and Q&As, and we did all of this good work, and some time's gone by. And now with the new omnibus coming out, we need to refresh it. And one of the things that we're working on is bringing in veterans themselves to really help us talk about how to market that so that we're using the right words and that we're we're doing the outreach in the right way so that family members in particular, we think are part of the equation. Like, they may not recognize it, but a family member will help
Right.
and help get them in. I don't know if you
My,
have
my time's up, but if you could, sort of brief me in particular, but the committee on what you're doing about that, we'd love to hear about it.
I would be pleased
And
to.
Thank you, I yield back.
Chairman Bosch, you